Hi, I'm Rebecca from yarnandshine.com, and today I'm going to teach you how I made this super cute wide waist belt. So I bought this dress for an upcoming wedding and I loved it, but it was such a busy fabric from top to bottom. I just felt like it needed something to break it up a little bit. What better way to do that than with a bright, cute hand crocheted belt? So this is an easy level pattern written in American Standard terms. The finished size of the belt is really up to you because this is going to completely depend on the size of metal clasps that you get, and it's also going to be determined by how long you need the belt to be based on your body measurements. So just for example, the belt that I made is 34 inches long and it's 2 3/4 inches wide. And the reason that I made it that wide is because I bought these metal clasps to finish off the belt, and this is about 2.75 inches wide, so I wanted it to match that. So again, this is going to be completely determined by the clasps that you buy. You might want a skinnier belt or even a wider one if they have those, and you might need your belt to be longer or shorter. So all of the information that I give you here is going to be based on the belt that I made, but again, you can totally tailor these instructions to your own body and your own yarn choices. So for this pattern, I actually used a little itty bitty C hook, which is 2.75 millimeters, and I did that because I wanted the fabric to be nice and tight. And if you don't care so much about that, you can just choose any hook size that you want to go along with the yarn that you're choosing. For the yarn, you're gonna need a number 3 DK weight yarn if you want to replicate the belt that I made. How much you need, again, is going to be completely dependent on how wide and how long you make your belt. But for reference, I used about 160 yards of this Yarn Bee Must Be Merino in gold. And just to clarify, Must Be Merino comes in a DK weight like this, and it also comes in an Aran weight, so make sure you're grabbing the right one if you're making the same belt that I did. Okay, the gauge for this pattern is not really that important as long as you're measuring against your buckle closure and your body as you go. But the technical gauge is, when done in the 3rd loops, 14 half double crochets times 9 rows equals 2 inches square. You're also going to need a yarn needle to weave in your ends, and you're going to need some belt buckle clasps. I bought these on Etsy, and I'll put the link to the shop in the notes below. But you can also find different variations of this. You just have to do some searching. I did find some at my local craft stores. I did find some on Walmart.com. So basically what you're searching for is belt buckle clasp, and that is what is gonna get you these results of all these different styles of clasp. I'm absolutely in love with this one. I think it's so cute and modern and feminine, and I just love it. All right, so go ahead and choose your yarn and choose a hook to go with it. Remember, if you want it to be a nice tight fabric, choose a smaller hook than what's recommended for the yarn that you pick. And let's get started making this cute belt. To start this pattern, you're going to want to have your metal buckle clasps handy because we are going to use this edge that we're going to be crocheting into later to measure how wide we want our belt to be. So go ahead and start with a slip knot. Insert your hook, and you're just going to chain whatever number gives you a length that is about 1/2 inch shorter than the opening of your clasp. So I know that mine is going to require 16 chains, and I'm not even counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So if I set this down and put it across the clasp here, I can see that it is just about 1/2 inch shorter than that width of the clasp, and that's what we want because we are going to put a little edging on this belt too. So you go ahead and chain whatever number you need to get to that length, all right? And then what we're going to do for round 1 is we're going to half double crochet in the second chain from the hook. And then we're going to continue to half double crochet in each chain across. So I am going to end up with 15 half double crochets, and your number might be different. Okay, so I have just finished my 15 half double crochets, and hopefully you have half double crocheted across your chain as well. So for row 2, and this is exactly what we're going to do for the entire length of our belt. So for rows 2 onward, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. We're going to half double crochet in that first stitch. So I'm going into the top loops of that first stitch. Now for the next stitch, we are going to go into the third loop. So quick lesson on third loop. This is our next stitch right here. So I'm going to get my half double crochet ready. These are the loops from the next stitch. So normally if I were going to half double crochet into the next stitch, I would put my hook there underneath those 2 rows, 2 loops, okay? I'm not going to do that though. To find the third loop, I am going to locate those top loops back and front, and I'm going to turn so that I can see this loop that's just underneath the front loop right here. That is the third loop of the half double crochet stitch. I'm just going to go from underneath it and through. I'm going to move these because they seem to be messing with my camera. Okay, so let me show you that one more time. Back loop, front loop, turn it to find that third loop. Go from underneath it. Should be really easy to insert your hook into there. And you're just going to half double crochet into that third loop. And you are going to do that in the third loop of all but your final stitch of the row. So now I know that I am working with 15 stitches in this row, and that stitch count is never going to change for me throughout this whole pattern. So I know that if the first stitch was a regular half double crochet, and I am half double crocheting in the third loops of all but the final stitch, that means that I should be half double crocheting in the third loops of 13 stitches. And that should leave me 1 remaining at the end. And what you're going to do when you get to that 1 at the end is you're going to half double crochet back into those top loops again. So I'm almost to the end here. My yarn's getting a little splitty on me. Okay, so I've got my final stitch here, and sometimes it gets a little bit twisted when you're working into that third loop. The top loops kind of fall back out of view a little bit, so you have to kind of work a little bit to find it. Okay, so that is row 2, and that's exactly what we're going to do for the entire length of this belt. You're going to half double crochet in the first stitch, half double crochet in the third loop only of all but the last stitch, and then half double crochet the normal way in the last one. So we'll do that one more time. Chain 1 and turn, and as you can see, that braid that's on the top there, that is what's going to help us to create the ribbing that shows up on the belt. And that is what the third loop does, is it creates that nice ribbing. All right, so half double crochet into the first stitch, and then half double crochet into the third loops of all but the final stitch of the row. And now we are to the final stitch of the row, so I'm going to half double crochet into the top loops like that. All right, so what I want you to do now is just continue following that instruction for row 2 until your belt is as long as you want it to be. And normally when you wear a waist belt, you're wearing it at the smallest part of your waist, around your rib cage. So go ahead and measure it as you're going, and you're going to want to make sure that you're accounting for your belt clasp, which is going to add a couple of inches in the middle. And then also you're going to want your length to be a little bit shorter, a few inches shorter than the small of your waist, because this belt is going to stretch around you. So you've definitely got quite a bit of wiggle room, and it's better to err on the side of it being shorter than your natural waist than longer, because then it will just droop and it won't stay in place. Okay, so go ahead and do that. I'm going to crochet a few more rows here, enough to be able to show you how to attach the clasp, and then we'll be done. All right, so I have just finished up this little swatch of rows, and now I'm going to teach you how to attach your belt to the clasp. Of course, at this point, your belt should be as long as you want it to be. And what I want you to check really quick is make sure that you have done an even number of rows. And the way that you will know that is if you lay the belt out flat, the side with your starting tail is going to be opposite from where your hook is right now. That's how you know that you've done an even number of rows. If your hook is over on this side, then you've done an odd number and you need to either take one out or just do another one really quick. And that's going to ensure that you can follow the rest of this tutorial pretty easily. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We are going to add the edging of this belt at the same time we attach the clasps. This is all one step. So you're going to have your clasps ready. You're only going to use one at a time so you can separate them. And what you're going to do now is you are going to, with your hook still attached, you're chaining one, and you are not turning your work this time. Now I want you to take a look at the edge of your work. What we're going to be doing is putting 3 single crochets in between each row of ribbing. Okay, when you crochet along an edge, it's just kind of a mess. There's no loops to work into, and you just kind of have to decide where you're going to put your hook. So I want you to visualize this before we begin. We're doing 3 single crochets, and we're going to put them all in the same space in between these 2 rows of ribbing, and then we're going to put 3 here, and then we're going to put 3 here and 3 here, all the way down the long edge of the belt. And so here's how I determine where I am going. This little area right here where there's like a just kind of a dip in the stitches, that's where I'm going to go, and I'm going to put 3 single crochets. I'm inserting my hook right back into the exact same place. Oops. For all 3 of those. Okay, so it's going to form a little hole there, and that's going to be part of the design. Then I'm going to move to the next. These are the 2 ribbings I'm working between, so I'm going to just go into this little dip there, and I'm going to put 3 single crochets, not a half double crochet, single crochets. I've done so many half double crochets, it's on my brain. All right, so 3 there, and then once you've done this a few times, you're going to be able to see, oh, okay, that's where I put my hook, because they're going to start to look very similar the more that you do. And as you can see, we're starting to get this nice edging on the edge of our belt. Okay, so for the last one, you're going between the ribbing and the edge. 3 single crochets in there. So I want you to do that down the long edge of your belt. When you get to the short end, you're going to take your clasp. Doesn't really matter which one, and for the first one, it doesn't really matter which direction it's facing. We just have to make sure when we put on the second one that we match it so that the clasp actually works, okay? Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take your clasp and you're going to put it opening on top, set it behind your work so that it's in line with your edge here. And what I'm going to do is I am looking for the first, this is the chain, the first chain that we did for this pattern. So I'm looking at the bottom of my chains here, and I'm going to go into that first one and also put my hook through the clasp. And then I'm going to grab that yarn and pull it through and complete a single crochet. Okay, it's attached now, see? Then I'm going to go through the second chain, the very next one, and also through the clasp, complete the next single crochet. And that's all we're going to do all the way through. To attach this to the clasp, just go down each chain, going through that opening on your clasp all the way down. Okay, so that was my last one. And if I open this up, you can see that it's very nicely attached all the way down the side. That is definitely not going anywhere. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do the exact same thing down this long edge of the belt that we did on the other side. So go ahead and locate the space between those first two ribs, and you're going to insert your hook and do 3 single crochets into that same space. And then you're going to go to the next one, 3 single crochets into that same space. And I want you to do this again all the way down the long edge of your belts. So I'm on my last one here. All right, now I'm gonna carefully take out my hook here because I want to grab my last clasp. And what you wanna do here is you want to make absolutely sure that you're attaching this the right way so that the clasp actually works. I don't wanna do it backwards and have the wrong side of these showing. I want it to be able to go like this because that's how my clasp works, okay? So I'm going to hold it like that and bring the other end around and just make sure that I'm holding it. See, it still works. Holding it the right way across the edge. And then I'm going to reinsert my hook here. And we're just going to do the exact same thing. Now we've got loops to work into because this is not a chain, it was an actual row. And so I'm going to go ahead and insert into that first stitch and through the buckle. And I'm going to complete my single crochet and then go into the next one, into the buckle, all the way down the edge. Once you are done crocheting across that edge, you can go ahead and slip stitch to the very first stitch of the edging back when we started on that other end of the belt. Go ahead and slip stitch and then you can fasten off. Pull it through and go ahead and weave in your ends and your belt is ready. See if I can get this tiny thing to close up for me. There we go. How cute is that? I hope you enjoyed this fun little tutorial for this wide waist belt. I've got lots more cute, fun, and easy crochet pattern tutorials on this YouTube page, so don't forget to subscribe. And I've also got tons of written patterns on my blog, yarnandchai.com, and I'll see you next time.